Hello, my name is Debbie Boone, and I want to welcome you to my podcast, The Bend, where we explore how successful people navigated the path and emerged in a better place when life threw them an unexpected twist. It's inspired by one of my favorite sayings: the bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the curve. These conversations will hopefully help you and inspire you to embrace your personal bend and to flourish. I hope you enjoy it, and if you need help with your own personal navigation and you're in veterinary medicine, please feel free to reach out to me at Debbie Boone to Manage Vets Consulting. Enjoy the bend and be inspired by our wonderful guest. Welcome. Welcome to The Bend, the podcast where we shine a light on the innovators, disruptors, and heart-driven change makers who are bending the veterinary profession for the better. I'm Debbie Boone, a CDPM, speaker, trainer, and champion of veterinary teams. And on The Bend, I talk with leaders who are shifting the mindsets and breaking the molds and designing a more compassionate, sustainable, and forward-thinking veterinary world. So whether you're a practice owner, a team member, an industry partner, you'll leave each episode with fresh ideas, inspiring stories, and practical tools to create a meaningful change in your own corner of the profession. So let's get started and discover how the bend begins. So I want to introduce my guest today, and you might recognize, if you've been listening to the bend for a while, that Adam Greenbaum has been a former guest, but he is here today. We're going to talk about his new third entrepreneurial launch. Let's put it that way. So Adam is a three-time founder, and he turns personal obsessions into thriving companies. We were laughing earlier that he retired for a month and a half and then had to jump on to some other project. Doesn't surprise me at all. He's just a ball of energy. But this is the man who started WhiskerCloud. He bootstrapped it from a kitchen table idea to a platform that served over 2,000 veterinary clinics worldwide, managing their social media, building their websites. And then he was a founding member of PetVisor, which, and later he was the global CMO. He unified WhiskerCloud, Pet Desk, Vetstoria, Contact, and Groomer all under one brand, raised $100 million to help clinics and pet parents communicate better with each other. Now, his newest venture kind of came out of a sad event where he lost his heart dog, Baxter, and he passed away in 2024. And Adam felt like he was kind of left out in the lurch after Baxter's death because he didn't have any resources for grief, for support from a community of like-minded pet lovers. And so what does Adam do? Adam builds it, because that's how Adam rolls. His goal here with his new venture called Love Baxter aims to make end-of-life support and memorialization as compassionate as the love we share for our pets. So if he isn't shipping product or fine-tuning brand strategy, you'll catch him at the beach with his wife Elizabeth, his dogs Sophie and Cosmo, and his cat Nala, probably clutching a new matcha concoction. He also mentors and invests in early-stage founders, helping them sharpen their vision and build businesses that matter. So Adam, thanks again for coming on, and I'm really, really excited to talk about your newest project, because boy, do we need this. And I appreciate the time that you've already put into it and the fact that you used inspiration to build something that is going to help our community.
Well, I appreciate that intro. My life is never boring, and that intro is kind of the reason why I'll relax some point in my life, just not anytime soon. But yeah, and I love what you said about like turning obsessions into business, because I mean that's what WhiskerCloud was. I moved to Denver. I was a single guy with just Sophie and Baxter, and at the time they were 2 and 4 years old, and it's snowing really hard, and none of my furniture got delivered. I'm sitting in my new apartment in Denver Tech Center. I start my new job the next day, and I'm on my iPhone, whatever iPhone that was in 2014, and I'm looking for a vet clinic, and none of them were mobile responsive websites, and they were all so bad, and it like planted the seed, and that led to WhiskerCloud, and now WhiskerCloud's part of Pet Desk and helps over 10,000 veterinary clinics. And it really was an obsession, still is an obsession, by the way. I mean, I want veterinarians to have brands and voices and be on podcasts like yours and go learn from you at conferences and answer the phone correctly and welcome people correctly and things like that. So yeah, that was a fun journey. I retired last year for anyone watching who knows me as part of WhiskerCloud or Pet Desk. And Baxter died in October. He died on October 28th. I had to go speak at London Vet Show 2 weeks later, which was I was just a sad person on stage. I had like 2 dozen vets come up to me crying after. I was talking about Baxter and end of life stuff, but yeah, I mean, he that dog was my life. I might even when I say that in front of my wife, she's like, people look at her and she's like, no, that dog was his life. So yeah, he inspired me. He was part of the inspiration behind Whisker Cloud, and now he's the inspiration behind Love Baxter, which it's named
Oh,
after, you know?
cool. Well, obviously, Baxter's death was the bend that caused you to see this need. So talk to us a little bit about, what Love Baxter is and how it will support, pet owners.
Yeah, thank you. So Baxter had 3 veterinarians, and I know every veterinarian on earth. So he had amazing care, out of this world care. Every single person at the clinic took incredible care of him. We just had one issue, in my opinion. For 6 months, we spent tens of thousands of dollars thinking we were healing him. We never realized we were keeping him alive, or saving his life or attempting to save his life. And there was a break in communication there. And the short version of a very long story is Baxter passed away at 11:31 a.m. on Monday, October 28th. If you rewind to Wednesday, I had his internal specialist, who's an amazing doctor, look me in the eyes and say, his blood work looks perfect. We beat this thing. My wife and I went home. We took him home. We celebrated. I posted a video on my LinkedIn of me saying, "You want to go home? We're going home. This is it." And it was probably the best night of my life. I mean, I really thought we were going to lose him for a minute there. And then you get told that. And the next day, he collapsed and he was hospitalized overnight. And then they said, we got to give him this medication. We think this is the knockout punch. It's a cancer medication. You can't touch it with your hands. So we give him that medication. We're like, all right, we got it. This was the knockout punch. And he started peeing blood. And then the next day, he was peeing a lot of blood. And then he couldn't walk. And then Sunday morning, we went and talked to the critical list, and the critical list just said he's not. This is it. So, um, and that was really hard for a lot of reasons. But and I want to talk about the platform, but I want to like take one step back, and I think this is what the platform does. Is I think when we're talking about life and death, which is really important, and we use words like perfect, his blood work is perfect. We beat this. Words really matter from a healthcare professional, whether it's human or animal, especially when you have parents, of these animals who are grasping at everything.
Mhm.
So that was really hard. And I remember like sitting at home Saturday night after we had this episode with him, and I'm like Googling everything, and I found nothing. Literally, I couldn't find anything. And then, we ended up saying goodbye Monday morning. I was a zombie for a couple days, and I'm searching the internet for stuff I would never search for in a million years. Just like the craziest stuff that my brain could be searching for. I found nothing. I would find things, some things, and they were 5-year old, YouTube videos, blog posts, different resources. They were years old, some of them outdated. And then I did a really big deep dive and I realized no one's built this. This does not exist. There is not a Wikipedia for pet end of life. And when I say end of life, it doesn't just mean my 12-and-a-half-year-old dog died or my 15-year-old dog died. It means, my senior pet. What can I be doing better for my senior pet? I have a 15-year-old Boston Terrier upstairs. Here she is on my hat. There's my Sophie.
Sophie.
Um, I have a chronically ill pet. Or what do I do when my puppy gets parvo and dies? Uh, and stuff like that. There was like no content on that. So
Mhm.
we built it. So for 7 months, I crawled the entire internet, which was crazy. I used AI. We had 187,000 keywords and topics on all things, pets passing, senior pets, what happens at a euthanasia clinic or a euthanasia appointment, what questions should I be asking my veterinarian, how do I take better care of a senior pet? 187,000 topics came out of that. And Love Baxter has just been, we've just been building that and building all this free content to put into the world. So that's the base of Love Baxter is just like the singular repository. You have the universe of end of life pet care and there's stars and planets all over this universe, but it didn't have a sun. It didn't have a connective tissue. Love Baxter is the sun of this universe and it connects the dots and it's not here to compete with this or this or this. It's here to be the gravity for it, to ensure that you can find it. When you come to my site, I want you to find this organization, that organization, and this grief specialist and this pet photographer. So we have a directory of pet end of life professionals. We've been live for about 3 weeks. We have 150 active profiles, 238 people that have signed up in 3 weeks. These are in-home euthanasia vets, pet crematories and cemeteries, grief specialists, doulas, veterinary social workers, hospice and palliative care, pet photographers, you name it, legal, if you want to set up a trust for your pet,
Mhm.
things like that. So we're getting all these people because again, my goal is not, I don't want to replace them. I want to help you find these people.
Mhm.
So we've got that. We've got a memorial store. We offer group grief support. So it is like the singular place online. And just broke every marketing role I have, Debbie. My marketing rules, if you can't talk about what you do in 30 seconds, you're not doing a good job. And I just spent 4 minutes on that.
It's all good. Well, it's such a new and exciting thing to have it all in one place. And while you were talking about it, I was thinking about when Dr. Jill Clark and Rhonda Bell and I started NAVR, the North American Association of Veterinary Receptionists. It's the same concept. There is so much information scattered in the universe, so many stars and planets, but finding it and putting it in one spot where managers and receptionists can go and learn certain things and find topics that matter to them for whatever it is that they happen to need in this moment in time didn't exist. So
Yeah.
that's NAVR. We're pulling all that stuff together on the NAVR website. So I very much understand and feel your pain because
Yeah.
finding it and then putting it in one spot and organizing it, and it's a heavy lift.
You know what though? I will say this, like working on this been really helpful for me. I mean, I'm down here in my office. There's pictures of him. I mean, to tell people like what I've personally been going through since he
Mhm.
passed away. I've been in this home office. Have this house for 6 years. My desk used to face the other way. I can't bear to look that way because his bed was now behind me. And I used to have, I'm looking at you right now on a giant 40-inch monitor that's vertical. And I used to like look around the monitor all day in meetings and when I was doing things just to see what he was doing, make sure he was okay. He'd come, I'd move his bed, he'd lay next to me. I still find myself turning around and looking at it so
Mhm.
often that I just turned my desk around because it was too hard to be down here without him. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a lot. It's
Yeah.
tough, but it
Yeah.
helped me. It helped me get through it. It gave me like a mission, and I needed a mission. Otherwise, I was just sitting there miserable.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So thinking about what you know now,
Yeah.
um, do you think that if you had known how much and how challenging all this was going to be, you would have thought, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, maybe. But I mean, obviously, there are obstacles
Yeah.
out here in the world that creating this was a challenge, obviously.
I mean, I would say this. We launched on July 9th, 2025, and in the first day, got like 40 messages from people. I was like, I mean, I push out on my social media, but people were just finding it, and they were like, thank you. I just read this article on how to get back into a routine after your pet dies. I just read this article on self-care. I just read this article on, like exercises for senior cats that I've been looking for that I couldn't find. Thank you for creating this. So that was really exciting. I will say I've felt a little pushback from the existing pet end of life space, which I think is, that I mean, look, I had a lot of pushback from the veterinary world when I
Hmm.
got in as well.
Hmm.
And now we serve. It was part of Pet Desk Vet Story. Now we serve, I believe, over 13,000 veterinary clinics worldwide because you know if you're not getting a little pushback, you're not doing it right.
Hmm.
So I love this. You know, I retired and I truly had plans to not work again. I honestly, if you ask me what I want to do all day, it's take my camera, go to animal shelters and just take pictures of dogs and cats and help them get adopted because I'm on all the lists and I always say, God, these pictures are so bad. They're not helping these
Oh
dogs,
gosh,
these
yes, they are
cats.
terrible.
I know it's
Yes.
like, and like,
Yeah.
you've got like the bigger the bully dogs and they have like just scary looking pictures. I'm like, oh
Uh-huh.
my God, you couldn't have waited till they smiled or looked nice.
I
So that's all I
know.
wanted to do. But, you know, uh, I mean, this Baxter meant more than anything to me.
Mhm.
And if this gets to be a legacy for him that, goes on forever, that,
Mhm.
that this 30-pound brown and white, red and white Boston Terrier gets to like unify the world and help people. That's really cool, and he
Yeah.
deserves it.
So, thinking about veterinarians, and obviously, one of the things that we were talking about pre-recording is that there seems to be a lack of resources, and I've said this
Yeah.
for many years that we tend to just let our clients drop off the ends of the earth after we've finished the medical part of working with their animals, and we do euthanasias, and we at my practice, because again, it was built on a hospitality mindset,
Yeah.
we checked on people. We called them up and said, "How are you feeling? How are you doing? What services can we offer for you?" And we had resources available for them, like grief counselors and a social worker that was one of our wonderful clients that offered to help people in grief, and books, a lending library. I mean, we were old school. This is talking about, I've been doing this 40 years, and so it was even, if you think it's unique now, you should have tried to do it in the 90s and see if people thought you had two heads because you were doing this stuff. But
Yeah.
I've always felt like our job as veterinarians is to support our clients in all stages of their pets' lives and even after, because we can't abandon people, because chances are really good there's going to be a time when they're going to get another one. And don't
Yeah.
you already have a new puppy?
We have a 7-month-old in the house,
Yeah.
and honestly, Baxter was a rescue, Nala was a rescue. We're rescuers, but my little stubborn 15-year-old upstairs, we could tell she was lonely,
Yeah.
and we wanted someone who would fit in, so we brought home puppy, just this amazing family in Fresno. And yeah, and by the way, I mean, no joke, between Sophie and Baxter and Nala, I've spent $60,000 in the last 16 months.
Yeah.
So I love what you're saying right now because it's so true. And guess what we're going to do for the rest of Cosmo's life? We're going to do whatever it takes to take
Yeah.
good care of
To
him.
take good care of them. Exactly
Yeah.
right. So I feel like we are losing some of our ability to, yeah, I don't want to say it's opportunity, but it is opportunity to
Yeah.
build a strong relationship with our clients in their worst time. Because but we need to have the skill set. We need to know what to say. We need to know how to say it, and we need to know resources, because we don't have, we're already running on a thread in most
Yeah.
veterinary hospitals, and just the ability to say, look, we understand how hard this is. We understand that this is the equivalent of losing a child for many of our clients. Now, and then some people are not as attached as you were to Baxter, but many people
Yeah.
are, and we need to acknowledge that. Here's this great resource for you for all kinds of stuff that you might need. And it's just the acknowledgement of saying, we get it, we have a plan, we understand. It's very much like helping people afford pet care. We get it. It can get expensive.
Yeah.
Here's options. We have a plan. Let us be partners and help you do everything that, you need to do for your pet, and then what can we do for you afterwards? It's a servant heart. How can we serve you? So I really feel like you've offered such a great thing. Now, you talked to me that you said, you've had a lot of great response already.
Yeah.
What are some of the comments that really resonated with you when people were reaching out after they discovered Love Baxter?
Well, and this really goes hand in hand with what you just said. You know, we have to be there for pet parents in their darkest time. And, I can tell you this. I'll tell you all two things. It really connects to the comments we've been getting on the site. And most of the comments we've been getting have to do with that, thank you. I haven't gotten this information. My veterinarian didn't have this information, which is, and I'm like, okay, cool. I know all the vets, so let me talk to them and
Hmm.
say, hey, we got to provide this. I think there's two things. If you had a WhiskerCloud website, if you work with pet tests, we ask you things like what makes your practice different. What services do you offer? And I can tell you all, pretty much 90%. This is not exaggeration. 90% of people pretty much wrote the same exact two things in those what makes you different. Number one was we treat your pet like family. And the second one was we're there for all stages of your pet's life. And as Debbie was just saying, we have to live up to that because if Baxter's family, then you're there with him through the battles, you're communicating, and then you're there after he's gone. Because
Hmm.
when a family member passes away, you don't just it's not just all right, goodbye. We called, we sent a card, we sent flowers. There's more to it. And being there for all stages of your pet's life doesn't just mean, hey, I want to see you yearly for dentals. Hey, I want to see you once a year. I want to talk about food and I want to do a quick wellness exam. It is all stages of your pet's life, including hey, we're getting older and things are happening.
Hmm.
So, we've gotten so many comments who are like, I've probably the number one comment we got, which I'm now trying to figure out, is people asking like, do you have pamphlets that you could send me or send to my vet? And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. I think there's so much that goes into this. I'd have to solve that, and I don't have a solve for it today.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is there is a lack of awareness and a lack of understanding of all things at the end of a pet's life.
Hmm.
Um, I have Baxter and now Sophie, same doctors. Baxter had three doctors, general practice doctor who we love, and I'll tell you how much we love her. A couple months ago, this was 6 months after Baxter died. We brought in Cosmo to see her, and she started crying. And she said he just did something that reminded me of Baxter. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't want vets to cry, obviously, but I mean that was like I mean, my wife and I went home and we're like, God, she's the best.
Yeah.
Not because she cried, but because that was a genuine, we really I this your pet, the billion pets I see, he really meant something to me.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I we had the GP, we had a dermatologist, and we had internal specialist. All three teams from top to bottom worked so hard. They did everything they could, literally.
Hmm.
I think they provided the world-class veterinary care. I don't think we missed a mark on anything. It was very expensive, but it's not their fault. That's what you have to do when you're doing rhinoscopies and ultrasounds and, getting biopsies and checking blood for plasma and monoclonal versus polyclonal, all that stuff that I had to learn. But I do think we have to get this communication better. And the communication shouldn't be, the week Baxter's dying or Sophie's getting older. It should
Hmm.
be, hey, you got a 7-year-old dog here, and
Hmm.
I want to sit you down. And you and I talked about this briefly before we hit record, but one thing I really want to see. So, like this morning, I had a meeting with a guy who's the head of marketing for a company in the pet space. And I said, he was talking about his dog. I said, "Oh, how old's your dog?" He said, 8 years old. I said, so have you sat down with your vets and talked about senior pet care? It's a big dog. He said, no. I'm like, okay, see why? It's an 8-year-old dog. I met with the head of one of the largest pet companies on earth, and she and I were talking. She's got a large dog, 9 years old. I said, how's senior life going? She goes, oh, she's not a senior. I said, that's a senior dog. She goes, no, no. I'm like, I'm not trying to freak you out, and I'm not a vet, but that's like 100-pound dog. That nine
That's a
years old,
senior dog.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very senior dog. Like,
Hmm.
I think if you were to go pull 100 people in the wild and who had dogs 7, 8 years old or
Hmm.
older and ask them, do you have a senior pet? They'd say, no, this
Right.
dog's not 12. So, I just think there's so much that goes into this
Hmm.
and it's hard. Where do you start? There's so
Yeah.
many other things we have to talk about,
Hmm.
but like what you said, we got to be partners in this.
Hmm.
And sometimes being a partner is sitting down and saying, Adam, you have a 10-year-old Boston Terrier, or is it a fictitious one? Your Boston Terrier's 10. We're doing senior blood work today. I want to talk to you about Boston Terriers and what happens at 10 years old.
Hmm.
Not only is this dog's life going to change, there's going to be an increase in cost because we're going to want to see you twice a year. Senior blood work panels are more expensive than regular blood work
Hmm.
panels. I need you to also understand, I'm not trying to figure out euthanasia. If you want ashes and cremation back, which we should talk about, is a minimum 500 bucks. And that, and then you're going to want your ashes, you're going to want to get some memorial pieces. I want to talk to you about our crematory. I want to talk to you about how we chose them. I want to talk to you about all these things. And I want to talk to you about it today so you can prepare because I don't want you to get hit with a bill for senior blood work and freak out, or for Dasaquin, which is $40 a bag, which
Hmm.
you're going to need once a month, or Antinol or any of the other stuff that Sophie's on. So you're going to have these increased charges. We might go to prescription food, which is more expensive than regular kibble you're feeding. So you're going to have these incremental costs, and I want you to know about it today because we're partners in this.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, in my practice, we had wellness plans, but we did them a little bit differently than the traditional pay monthly kind of things. We just split things up. But we saw all pets in our practice every 6 months because pets age fast.
yep,
And we did little small blood panels on them every year. And then as they aged, we started to advance the panels that we were looking at. And then when they tipped at 7, then we said, okay, now we're going to this panel. But we kind of
yep,
prepped people along because we were talking about the progression of aging animals. But even then, as good as we were at it, I don't think we were as good as we could have been to talk to people about things like the possibility of hospice care. When my last
yeah.
dog, this Tucker's sitting on my lap, but my last dog, Rocky, got Cushing's disease. And I was traveling all the time. I was gone at least every other week. It's craziness. And he was really struggling. I mean, my husband he was vocalizing in the night. We were try to get him on some medication to hope that it worked. And I called Mary Garner, who is one
Oh
of
yeah.
the principals in Lap of Love. And I said,
Yep.
Mary, you're my old dog expert. Tell me what to do with this dog. And she said, let me send one of my vets to your house. And Lap of Love came to my house, and the vet was great. She said, here's some things that you can do that are just kind of stimulate his muscles. Here's how you can feed him. Here's some things that you can do. And so even as long as I had been in vet med,
Yeah.
no one had ever come to me and said, here are like hospice things that you can do to make quality of life improve because it's not time to put him to sleep, but it's that mid period of where he's still old, he's still got problems, he's still a little decrepit,
Yep.
but you can make that better by doing these kind of things. And I went, oh, it was like a light bulb went off that now I have this other, like resource or other thing to really be looking to and ask about as my dog gets older to know that this is available to me. So I'm eternally grateful for that. And then Lapalove did come and put him to sleep in his bed eating a greenie, which was his favorite thing on the earth. It was a great experience there. But I really do feel like the after that, there's the after that, and
Yeah.
that's kind of where Love Baxter comes in for me. And I've looked through the site and looked at the store, and I've looked at just a few of the resources because you were still adding them as I was starting to
Oh
look.
yeah.
They were still coming on there, but I think those are it's such a benefit, and honestly, even if you're not um, the pet owner who is looking for support, you're the veterinary team that could go to this site and say, let me find out what people are looking for
Yeah.
so that I can help send them there or do it myself or learn more about it myself so that I can make their experience better. I used to ask my students when I was teaching the Patterson class, do you think you can make euthanasia a positive experience? Now, that's a kind of a tough question, right? Do you
Yeah.
think you can? And many of my students would say, yes, you can. And I went, you are exactly right. You can. It
Yeah.
is all in how you handle it and how you are presenting it to the client and how you're guiding them through this process and how you're honoring the bond that they have with their pet. Um, and being really conscious of how those people need to be supported because not everybody needs the same thing. And there's nuance to it that sometimes I think we miss the mark on because some people will just fall into your arms and cry
I can imagine.
hysterically.
Yeah.
Other people are very stoic and they don't want you to break that stoicism because they want to manage themselves
Yeah.
in public, But one of the things that I absolutely loved, one of my students said, was she said, it's particularly men, right? Men aren't allowed to cry. And so the men would be very stoic in the room, but they would hand them this little organza bag that had a package of tissues in it. And that was where they put the collar and they had some forget-me-not seeds.
Yeah.
Because they said, we know that when that man gets to the car, he's going to break down and he's going to
Yeah.
need a tissue. And we have tissues all over the animal hospital, but he didn't have any in his car. So it was just a thoughtful gesture that says, we get it, that when you get out that door, then you're going to break down. And I just loved that. I thought that is the most thoughtful thing that people could do, to help that owner as they get past. But, as I mentioned, I mean, we had clients call us and they said, my children are having a hard time. So I'm wondering, do you have resources for
We do.
parents?
We do.
Yeah, because that stuff is
I love that
thoughtful.
you say that, and I'm gonna pull up the site while we talk here. But so we broke down content because it's a lot of content. So we have our main page, which is just our blog page, where you can there's a search bar. You can search anything. You can search
Hmm.
cremation, family, religion, and a ton of stuff will come up. But then we also broke down all the content by 12 categories. So if you want to look at topic, we have aftercare memorials, end of life planning, grief and emotions, and senior pet care. You can search by species, so cats, dogs, exotic pets, horses. And then you have context being anticipatory grief, family and relationships, spirituality and beliefs, and then sudden loss. So, for families and relationships, we have things like how to support someone who lost a pet, pet loss impact on family dynamics, a complete guide. When pet loss grief affects your living pets, we have a guide on how to help kids prepare for a pet's passing. We have age based, we kind of broke it down by age. um, what not to say when someone pet dies. We even have a post on there. It's like text message templates of what to send to someone
Oh, wow.
because I mean, even before I went deep on this, obviously at Pet Desk, I had a large team and at WhiskerCloud, and when someone's pet died, I would say, take all the time you need, whatever you need. But you never really know what to say.
Mhm.
We had an awesome woman who moved, but her rabbit died, and it was hard, right? Because like, you don't think of a rabbit on the level you think of a pet dog or cat, but on the flip side, she was really hurt and I wanted to help her, through that. But we've got a post on why pet loss hurts more than human loss, and there's, a lot of like research in that. But yeah, I mean, you know, the top four things that people search on the site in the first 3 weeks, and it changes kind of weekly. The top four topics we've had so far is anticipatory grief is number one, which I just think is so interesting, right? Because by the way, if I have anticipatory grief, which I have a lot of for Sophie upstairs, Sophie's been diagnosed with Cushing since 2023. It is
Mhm.
2025. She turned 15 in April. She's on a lot of medication, a lot
Mhm.
of supplements, but she goes to the beach every day. She runs around. She's kicking butt. I'm gonna knock on wood, but my anticipatory grief is high. Veterinary clinics. This is the number one search thing. And I don't mean 12 people search for it. I mean thousands have searched
Wow.
for it already on our site. I'm still your client. This is still your patient, and I'm going
Yeah.
through that. If you don't know that or you're not talking about it, imagine the bond you build with a client for life. If you just looked me in the eyes and said, "How you doing? Sophie's 15. Are you okay? This is probably a lot. I know it's a lot changing. How are you?" But that doesn't always happen. So I think that's big. So that was number one. Number two is cremation. Again, that's something that's not actively talked about at the vet hospital until you're either in the room, okay, your pet
Mhm.
just passed away, or you're making the appointment if you're at a Debbie Boone clinic. Number three is cancer as a number three thing, which makes sense, right? I mean, a lot, if it's a coin flip after you have an 8-year old pet. It's a coin flip if they're going to get cancer or not. And then the number four topic, I hate to say this, the number four topic is suicide, and that's
Oh,
what people have searched for. It's the number four topic, and that
wow.
is, I mean, so do all of these things revolve around the veterinary clinic? No, of course not.
Right.
And it's not fair to put all of this on the
Sure.
veterinary clinic. But having said that, I watched the episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm yesterday where Larry came up with the having said that. But having said that, there is still a lot of data to pull from that.
Yeah.
That thousands of pet parents are searching suicide, and you want to be there with them through all stages of their pet's
Mhm,
life. You want to treat them like family,
mhm,
and you want to be there for them after their pets are gone.
mhm,
um, there you can't put a monetary value on checking in on them
mhm,
a week after the pet's gone, a month after the pet's gone.
mhm,
But I promise you, like what we were talking about earlier, you know, we still use the same general practice, the same internal specialist, and the same dermatology clinic that Baxter used for Sophie, and just the GP for Cosmo and our cat Nala. Um, because I didn't think everything was perfect. I don't think you should have used the word perfect when you talked about his blood work. I don't think you should have said we beat this, but I also felt really supported from the team. They sent cards, they sent flowers, they sent gifts, which you don't have to do all that.
mhm,
But it was just like, wow, okay, they're really really thoughtful here. The card from our internal specialist, the whole team wrote like memories of Baxter,
mhm,
which was like really hard to read. So yeah, those are the four things that people are searching. And right now I think there's like 600-700 posted resources. We're trying to add like 5 to 10 a day. It's just
mhm.
we want them to be good content. It takes time to get them, but
Yeah,
by the end of the year we'll have thousands.
that's great.
Yeah.
And I don't want to trigger anybody, but the suicide remark is so pertinent. I was reading a post, oh, maybe 6 months ago, and it was from a veterinarian who had a client who was very attached to his cat. They had to euthanize the cat, and he was incredibly distraught. She spent an hour with him, walking through, talking to him, hoping he was okay, comforting him. And he left and went home and committed suicide. And she was distraught because she thought, what else could I have done? And I said, look, there's things in this world that are above your pay grade, and you're a
Yeah.
veterinarian, you're not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and you did more, I think,
Yeah.
than most people would have by spending an hour working with this person and trying to get him in a good space before you let him walk out the door. But what if we could have sent him information, sent him to a place where there were other people that he could have talked to that were kind of in the same boat, that were supportive, or there were professionals in the room that could offer more professional support than the veterinarian could have. Maybe it could have helped, right? We don't know. We don't know if we could have saved a life. My father committed suicide when I was 16. I don't know if you know that or
Oh, I
not.
didn't know that. I'm sorry. I had no
But
idea.
I just, sometimes you just kind of feel divinely inspired to do something. And so I wrote a post one time called Please Stay. And it was about the fact that whether you feel like your life is useless or not, the people who are with you love you and you matter to them. And so as a child of 16, I wanted them to know what I lost by losing my father at 16, because I didn't, he didn't see,
Yeah.
my prom. He wasn't there for my wedding to walk me down the aisle. He didn't see the success that I've made with my career, and he was a great business person, and I really admired, and followed his path. So all those things that you would have done with a parent or with a father were missed by me. So the message was, please stay, please stay. And somebody responded and said, you don't know how I needed to hear that today.
Wow.
And you
Yeah.
think, wow, did I, could I have saved his life by that message, and having him know that, even though it looks one way to you and your brain is lying to you because it does, then listening to somebody else support you and say, here's the consequences for the people that you love who you're
Yeah.
leaving. Um, and so anyway, but I think that's enlightening to know. And I thank you for sharing that information. And the other thing is that anticipatory grief, and being able to talk to our clients and say, look, this is how this could go. We don't want it to go this way, but I want you to have an awareness of this
Yeah.
is how it could go. And here's some things that you can research if you want to. And here's some tools that we could typically, use to help them have a better kind of last few years, or last 6 months, or last 2 months, or whatever, that are coming that way. So you're prepping clients. My huge theory in life is don't blindside people, right?
Right.
Never
Yeah.
blindside people. And if you know something ahead of time, talk to them about it. Uncomfortable. We avoid uncomfortable situations, and this is
I
uncomfortable.
mean, I mean, you just literally nailed it for veterinary
Mhm.
medicine. I think we've, again, if you've worked with us in the past, we do reputation management.
Mhm.
Like, we would get hundreds of reviews most days, and especially during and after COVID, it was a
It's
nightmare.
rough. It was rough.
But like, we'd see 200 one-star reviews a day. They were about two things only. Seriously, two things: cost and end of life. That was it. Those were the two. You'd get a little bit, oh, this person, they didn't answer the phone fast enough. They kept me
Mhm.
on hold too long. But in reality, if you're a veterinary clinic, you have two bad issues: cost and, issues with end of life, which is funny because I believe in both cases, both of those situations get solved with communication, and like over communicating to the
Yes.
point of like, just like you're making people nauseous, like they're like, I got it, but in reality it's like, no, I really need you to understand why we're doing the senior test, why the senior blood work
Mhm.
is $600 instead of your usual 200,
Mhm.
$250. Like, this is why we surge, this is what we send it, this is what we do. And I just don't think that gets done
Mhm.
enough.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And again, going back to, every client is different and you have to judge the person in front of you. But I've even had people look at me and go, well, I don't want to know how much it costs. It doesn't matter, right? Whatever it takes. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
that's not fair.
Yeah,
We
it's not fair.
want transparency, so that's not fair. And we know that people are stunned by price
Yeah.
sometimes, and especially in the last couple of years, the prices have gone up close to 20%
Yeah.
since 2022. And we know that. So we need to make sure that people have an awareness of how much things could cost. And you're talking about, you're right. I used to tell people this, the bigger the dog, the more expense,
Yeah.
because every drug is at a dose for 100 pounds and it costs more. And the older they get, the more expensive they are. So be prepared for those things coming along. And that's why when they're puppies, is when you need to get your insurance, right? Not when they're
Yeah.
10, not but when
Yeah.
they're puppies, get their insurance. Um, so Adam, thinking about I mean, starting up a business. I work with a lot of new veterinary practice owners, and it's my very favorite thing to do is to
Yeah.
work with startups. And you are the startup king.
Yeah.
Tell me about what do you think that, like, if you were going to start a veterinary practice,
Oh yeah.
knowing what you know, what kind of pieces of the puzzle would you put in place?
Well, this won't shock anyone. Our brand would be super locked in, and the experience of the clinic would be super locked in. I want to feel so. And like, to put that in perspective, I love H Mart grocery store. Do you know what H Mart is, Debbie? Do they have them out
We don't
there?
have them here where I live. Yeah.
Okay, so H Mart is it's like a Korean Japanese market. I'm not kidding you all. It is stocked beautifully. The lighting is perfect. Everything is, the produce section blows your mind. I hate going shopping in public. I'm an online shopper for everything. And during COVID, we would order our groceries, and I was like, I fell in love with it. I love going to this grocery store. I don't think many people say to themselves, I love going to the vet. But if you could change that and you could make it to a place where your pet is welcomed, oh man, and you're welcomed. And look, at my vet clinic, they're awesome. They have like coffee and tea and bottled waters and flavored stuff. And my dogs have their favorite treats and they walk up and give them to them. I mean, it's great, but if I was starting a new vet hospital, and I would do it exactly like I did with Love Baxter. Love Baxter is I'm just working faster and harder than everyone. And I think that's what you have to do in veterinary medicine too. Especially if you've worked with me in the past, I would have an amazing website. You all know who would build it. But I'd have an amazing website. I would do SEO. But listen, when I was doing that website, I would say, hey, you guys sent me a survey and you want to do a kickoff call. I want to book 2 hours because I want to tell you every single thing I want on this website. That maybe happened 5 times ever. I'm thinking about Dr. Mike in Texas. I'm thinking about Dr. Seth in St. Louis. I'm thinking about, a few of you, heavy hitters out there who are really big into brand. Um, um, I'm trying to think. There's one more. She was Dr. Lily Chen. Same thing.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
amazing. I mean, she cares about her brand. So, brand content, be
Mhm.
super transparent. I would be running, I mean, I'd be spending literally $5,000 a month on ads when I opened. I would be offering first exam free. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I got to get you in the door. And I may as well, if I can get you in the door, your cost per acquisition, think of it like this. I have no joke. In the last year on all of my animals, I mean, we're well over 50, $60,000.
Hmm.
Well over. I mean, when Baxter first got sick, it didn't start with his official reason for death was severe inflammatory bowel disease. Now we think there was more to it than that, but that was the final cause. But my wife and I had gone to Japan. We came back, his nose was swollen, like he was stung by a bee, and that alone, we do a rhinoscopy. Well, it's 4,500 bucks. We found nothing. Like, how's that possible? We're staring at his nose swollen. You found nothing. We think it's in his throat. We need to do something there, and if we find anything, we're gonna have to take samples and biopsy. I said, okay, how much is that? It's like 3,500. Okay, great. So I'm at $8,000. By the way, they found something in his throat. We were like, oh, this is it. Biopsied it. Not that. Okay, cool. 8 grand. No pieces of the puzzle have been connected. It was $8,000 like that. But I'd be spending $5,000 a month and offering free first visits
Uh-huh.
because it is my chance to get you in the door. It is my chance. When you think about the cost per acquisition, like if I'm a lawyer, years ago I owned an advertising agency in Denver and I had lawyers. Do you know like a lawyer who will win a case and get whatever percentage of 50, $100,000? They're willing to spend $5,000 for every new client, even if it's like an accident on the freeway. They're willing to spend 5 grand. But vet hospitals would come to me and say, I'll give you $11 a day for ads. And I would say, well, then we're not even going to do it because like VCA and Banfield are going to kick your butt. Bond Vet, Modern Animal, Pet Folk, they're in your city, they're spending $250 a day.
Mhm.
If you spend $12, you may as well just light it on fire. So, you got to get them in the door. And a lot of people say, well, it kind of takes away from the service if you're offering a free first exam or something. I don't always believe that. One of the other things you could do is you could offer a special discount on their second visit.
Mhm.
Come in for an exam and we'll give you X% off your second visit. I would get something to get them in the door. I know it's like a matter of pride thing. Like, why do we have to do that? There's a reason why even the fancy restaurants where I live in Orange County, California, like still do welcome parties with like happy hours and things like that. Like, you got to get people in the door. So get them in the door. And then you should ensure when they get in the door you just got to wow them. You have to wow them. You have to be over the top. And I'll say this too. I would obviously have technology. Again, you all know who I would use.
Mhm.
I don't need to name them, but I would make sure, hey, by the way, we have an app. You're going to get reminders. You're going to be able to book online. You're going to be able to get access to their records. Like I would want all of those things. I can't tell you all. I'm retired now, Debbie. I can say this. I can't tell you all the amount of, the times I would be trying to sell someone a website and they'd say $200 a month. Are you crazy? I would say, do you know how many visits how many new clients our customers get just from strong SEO and having a good website? $200 a month. I'm like, if you get Adam Greenbaum in there, he'll do a rhinoscopy and a throat check without thinking twice for 8 grand. You'll have 5 years of WhiskerCloud covered from one sick Boston Terrier. So yeah, I mean, I would have a beautiful building. I'd have a locked in brand. I would make sure I've got strong social media presence. And by the way, strong social media presence means I want you to look at the post you're about to put out. If you're a veterinary clinic, if you're anyone, look at the post and ask yourself, would I share this? Would I send this to a friend right now? If the answer is no, don't post it
Mhm.
because you're just posting to post.
Mhm.
I want my vet to post stuff where I'm like, oh, that is really interesting. I
Mhm.
needed to know that. Whether it's dental health month, whether it's, like, by the way, it's July. I had to just look at my calendar. It's July. Even here in California, it is hot.
It's hot.
And
Yeah.
you know what nobody out there knows? Nobody understands that oh, by the way, you're all gonna hate me. I said it's hot. It's like 77 degrees.
Oh,
It
please.
feels hot. I know. But
Look,
but
it's been
like it's
114 here the last couple of
there
days.
you go. It's 114. And what is the ground temperature for dogs? I guarantee you most people don't know that. But out
Walking
there, if
on the
you're
beach, walking on the beach the other day, the sand temperature was 120 degrees.
yeah, see, and like I take my dogs to the beach. So It's so weird as I'm like saying this. I'm realizing like I think the difference between having a really, really great running, profitable vet hospital, it's like if you're willing to spend the extra $1,000 a month on having the right tech and communication, if you're willing to spend a little bit of money on advertising, like you're already beating every other vet clinic. Trust me, I've seen the data on 13,000 vet clinics. I promise you, I know what works and
No.
what doesn't. And I promise you all, I have more data in my brain on earth. The clinics that run paid advertising and that have a good social media presence smoke everyone who doesn't. And it's like not close. It's like 5x the revenue, 5x the visits. Because when you do those things, like I would say this to everyone listening, you go look at the Inc. 500, the Inc. 5000, the Inc. 50. I promise you all, they all do advertising. They all have strong brands. They all communicate really well. You can't win in this world without doing those things. I've put $50,000 to build Love Baxter of my own money. It doesn't currently make money. I promise you all, I'm spending thousands of dollars a week since we launched on ads for zero return right now. Now, I say right now, it will grow, but this is the investment that I have to put in to get it out there. I can't just open up a sandwich shop on Main Street and say, okay, doors open,
Yeah.
people are going to come in. It just doesn't work that way. So that was my really long impassioned answer to that. But it's like I don't understand why we have to fight against that. No, if people are not going to just drive by and see a sign that says veterinary hospital anymore. Like, come on.
Well, and the other part of it is, people are very distracted. There's so
Oh
much
yeah.
happening at them all the time. I can remember way back thinking about advertising and how many messages we would get in a day, whether it was flipping through the newspaper, like paper, newspaper,
Yeah.
or the Yellow Pages guy would come and he would want to do a Yellow Pages ad. And the magazines, you were seeing the magazines, and comparatively, it's 20 to 30 times that now because we're just being pushed all the time by all these ads. But on the other side of the coin, here's a comment that I have made many times to veterinarians. Do you get your do you choose your gynecologist from an ad? And the answer is no. I choose them from a referral.
Yeah.
But I gotta find them, right? So the ad is secondary. I gotta be able to find them fairly easily, or either say, "Hey, I saw this veterinary hospital online. Do you know anybody who goes there?" And people are,
Yep.
"Oh yeah, this is great," or "Oh no, they're terrible." But you can advertise all you want to, and we've had this conversation
Oh yeah.
before. And you give shitty service when they come in the door. It doesn't matter how much you spent out here in the world to get them in, you failed. So
We
you've
we we
got to
fired a
train.
client.
Oh,
Yeah.
you got to train your team.
We fired a client a vet hospital in New York. They had a like 2.6 rating on Google,
Ooh.
I think, and like really hard. We were running ads and they were just like, you guys suck. This isn't good. I'm like, you guys get three negative reviews a day. I don't even understand. So yeah, I mean, obviously, well, that's kind of what I said too. It's you have to wow them. I'll tell you all a quick story because you just said something like really intriguing. So last year, I'm the global chief marketing officer of PetVisor, which is a parent brand of VetStory, Pet Desk, WhiskerCloud, all that. I I had I flew my marketing team and we had people from London. We have a team in Sri Lanka. We had a team in the US. And I took the marketing team at VMX and I said, okay, walk with me. We're going to start at the back corner and we're going to go down every aisle. And we're just going to talk and look at every booth. So we got to the end, like 2.5 hours later, and I said, okay, what'd you all notice? And everyone's kind of looking like, what does he want us to say? What does he want to say? And someone said, okay, I saw five of our competitors here. And I said, bingo, except no. You saw five of our competitors here and you focused on that. I just saw 1,000 booths, and we just spent a week figuring out what email we're going to send to everyone who stopped by our booth and hoping to sell them on Pet Desk and getting it into their clinic. I'm like, you saw that we're competing with those five other companies that you just saw. I want you to understand we're competing with the 1,000 companies who
Mhm.
are all thinking about how many emails they're going to get. I'm like, everyone who got their badge scanned, I said we shouldn't even send the email for 3 weeks because it's a waste of time. So, it's like what you said. There's so many little pieces of it. about having to be found, having to create a experience, and then understanding that we all get bombarded every day with so much messaging. It's like hard to take. So your messaging and your brand have to stand out. Otherwise, you're just, you're just the vet hospital down the
Mhm.
street, and that's not exciting enough to get me to come in.
No, unless you're close, that's it. That 5 mile
Yeah.
proximity, just sometimes. But the hospital that I managed, there were five AHA accredited veterinary hospitals within a 1 mile radius.
Oof.
And if you don't think you could compete giving great service, you absolutely can.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I was one of the first adapters of a veterinary website in the state of North Carolina. And my first website, you would have cracked up because we had a dog and a cat lobby. And you would come to the website and you would click on either the dog or the cat, and it would open up, and you would get a tour coming through the dog side
I
or
like
coming
that.
through the cat side. It was a little animated dog, little animated cat. I mean,
I
it
love
was
it.
so simple. But that URL has been in existence since like 1991 or 92. And the other part of it is too, I don't think they've ever had less than a 5-star review on that site, and there's thousands of them.
Yeah,
And
I mean, and it's like that was the same for WhiskerCloud for years. It's like we just had zero, and it's because if someone was, I used to just say to our team, just don't let it get to that point. If you
Mhm.
don't let it get to that point and you're willing to go jump on the grenades and apologize and make it right, even when we are in the right, I can't control how someone took something we did. We have to go. That's, you know what? Do you want to win this battle or do you want to have a successful business? That
Right.
was like the question I used to say to my team all the time. Say, well, this doctor is just so mean. I'm like, cool. And guess what? You get to go home tonight. You live in California. You're going to go surf after work. Like you don't have to win this battle. You can go make that doctor feel good. Did you have to euthanize 4 or 5 pets today? Because she did, and
Mhm.
you're upset. Like give her grace and let's move on. Don't win
Mhm.
the battle. I used to
Yeah.
say that all the time, like do not win.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, nobody wins when you come at everything like a war.
I agree. Yeah.
Life is a negotiation. So be
Yeah.
open to negotiation. And, the funny thing is, I was reading a book by Dr. Tarsha Urich, and I love her books. She wrote a book about self-awareness, but she said everybody thinks they're the good guy. No matter what side of the coin you're on, everybody thinks
Yeah.
they're the good guy. And so they're defending. When we kind of go, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I could be illuminated a little bit. Let me go ask what this other person is feeling and thinking,
Yeah.
because everybody's feelings are valid no matter what. And then maybe we share our feelings too, and we get all that out into what Crucial Conversations calls the pool of common meaning, and then you can solve the problem together. But
Yep.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Adam, I'm very excited about this resource for veterinary hospitals, and I thank you. I'm looking at like you haven't commoditized this at all. Um,
I'll
Maybe
figure it
selling
out.
a few hats, but I don't think that's gonna make you rich. But still, I feel like it's just such a blessing for people to be able to find a place to find all this information, and for veterinary teams to have a resource where they can send people, and then, take a look at the resources that are there, because there are veterinarians there who are doing in-home euthanasias, and I think that's a great resource for hospitals. And I was mentioning to you, Honor Pet, that is actually building pet funeral homes and places where people can go and have ceremony and very much model what we're used to in human end of life stuff. And I feel like that's going to be a really successful thing because people need the closure. That's my mother is 91, and she's like, don't open my casket. And I went, why? She said, because I don't want people going, don't she look good? Because I'm 91, I don't look good anymore. She said, I went, okay. I'm also not allowed to bury her if it's snowing because she doesn't. I said, eventually it's going to snow. She's in North Carolina. But we don't have these conversations enough with our parents. We don't have them enough
Yep.
with our pet owners, and dealing with a pet owner. I mean, I worked in a practice for 19 years. We went through multitudes of deaths with our pet owners because we were there I was there for a really long time, and
Yeah.
just was there for a long time. And knowing, knowing that, still remembering those pets. Um, I used to keep a book of all the Christmas cards that people would send us with their pets' photographs in them. And I kept them out on a coffee table in our lobby because they meant something to us. And they
Yeah.
could sit there and flip through, 10 years of Christmas cards and see these pets with their kids getting older and older. And then the cool thing would be the kids would age and they'd get out of college and they'd get married and then they have pets and then they would come to us too. So,
Yeah. I mean,
it,
total.
it,
I mean,
you know,
that's
it,
all part of this.
yeah, it is so cool when that happens. And I feel like a lot of times, we don't keep our teams around long enough for them to experience what it's like to
Don't get me started on that topic.
part of, yeah, really be part of somebody's family and trusted, and such a trusted advisor. And we can do that. We really can do that. So anyway, well, I appreciate your time. And folks,
Of
this
course.
is,
Thank you.
we can find at lovebaxter.com, right? That's it.
Yeah, yeah, please check it out. Follow us on social. We're putting out a lot of content, and like we've been up for a few weeks, and we've got a lot of vets who are helping. Please reach out every day. I get 2 or 3 dozen LinkedIn messages. I reply to all of them from pet professionals, veterinarians saying, "Hey, I just saw this post. Can you add this?" And I look them up, make sure they're legit. I'm like, okay, that person's professional. I'm gonna add it. So yeah, I'd love feedback. If you have a website out there and you want more resources on your website, let me know. We can send you some links and send you some stuff, and yeah, let's just all do this together. I just spent the last 10 years helping veterinary practices grow and learn. And now I'm on the other side. I'm a pet parent who knows vet med. Let's do this together. Let me be the voice of pet parents. Tell you what we need to have a great relationship with you. So Sophie, Baxter, Cosmo, Nala, Bijou, they can all be honored through this.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Thanks for joining us on the bend and for you in the audience. And if today's episode sparked a new idea or inspired your next move, share it with a friend. Leave us a review. Tag me on social, Debbie Boone, CVPM. I'd love to hear how you're bending the profession in your own way. And if you're interested in being on the podcast, please reach out to me at Debbie Boone, DebbieBooneConsulting.com. And Adam, always fun, always interesting, always exhausting because man, you're just like energy. Like, I don't know.
I
People tell me
know.
the same way. So it's like energy on both sides of this, right? We're like wired people.
I love it.
I do too. Thank you again. And thank you to everyone for listening to this episode of The Bend.